Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the premier radio networks, including XM Channel 166, and 180 of the best stations in the U.S. on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo 2012. This is episode 871. Enjoy. La, la. Hello, everybody. Good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. And I'm back to talk computers, the internet, cell phone, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, and all that jazz. With you. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. If I know I say that fast, but it's all written down on the interwebs. If you go to techguylabs.com, you'll find it all there. techguylabs.com is the website. Oh, I'm so excited. We got a brand new one in development. Man, this is a good experience for me to partake in the creation of a website in the way that most people do it. You know, all I've done all along is do my own. Because, I've been doing this we started doing this radio show in 1991. So what is that, 21 years? And we did it before there was an internet. I didn't have a web page. I guess I did, maybe by 92 or 3. But, in those days, you did it yourself, right? But times have changed considerably. Expectations have changed. If you want to see what a website looks like when Leo does it, go to the Tech Guy Lab site, yeah. Which looks like it was designed in 1998 as it was. Very text-heavy. But, I come from that old school where, it's all about the content, not about the presentation, about having the, information at your fingertips, blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't even have, I don't think it even has a picture on the front page. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So, but this is the limit of my design skills. I'm not exactly, Leonardo da Vinci here. I'm a tech guy. So both my podcast site, my personal blog, and the Tech Guy Lab site were all designed, and I use that term loosely, by me. But now it's a business, isn't it? Yeah, and there's expectations have changed. So gradually, bit by bit, inch by inch, we're changing the sites to like professional sites. So the first to go was the podcast site. That was the TWiT is the name of my podcast network, TWiT, This Week in Tech. I know what a TWiT is. Every once in a while, somebody emails me and says, you know a TWiT is an insult? I said, yes, I know. So the first site we redesigned at great expense is the TWiT site. Now it's real professional, man. It's like a professional website. And boy, did I learned some lessons. First of all, I don't know, was it $60,000 this thing cost? Remember, I was doing it before. I did it before this site. It was kind of free. Now, the next site that's going to change is the Tech Guy Lab site. That's one costing even more, but it's almost done, and it's going to be gorgeous. And you know what? It's worth it. I hired a company that I'd worked with before called Lullabot, and we're redoing this so this is part of the lesson I learned. The original sites, the first site, I always used a content management system. I have to say that. The very first sites, way back when, that I did, the sites in the era where you had a guy in a hard hat with a sign that said under construction, and you had a mailbox that opened and closed, an animated mailbox. Those days, you could do it all yourself, and I probably used something like Dreamweaver to do HTML. That's how you used to do it, by hand. And some of you I know are still doing it. That's why I mentioned this. But the web has changed a little bit, and the way things work now is you usually, most people have, that was called a static site because it didn't change until you changed the HTML underlying. Now most sites, almost all sites, I would say 99% of all sites are dynamic. That is, the site is built, created, the page is actually created when you ask for it. It has to be that way. If you think of going to Amazon.com, well, you know, that changes every time you go there, right? Any site an e-commerce site, they have to have a database of stock, prices, all of that stuff, and the site is built as you come to it. But even content sites now, if you go to Huffington Post, for instance, that's constantly changed because writers are keeping updating stuff. You wouldn't want to do that in Notepad. You wouldn't want to hand code that. What you do is you have it's more like software that you would run on your desktop computer. You have a database that contains each item that goes onto the site, each item that's changed, you know, articles, pictures, headlines, that kind of thing. Stock, you know, items in stock, prices, whatever it is that you deliver on your page. You also then have some software running on that site called a content management system. And when somebody visits the site, the software, the content management system runs and says, okay, let's pull the latest stuff from the database, build the page, and display it. And this can be done fairly quickly. And there are tricks and techniques to make this more efficient. So when you go to my personal site, leoville.com, there's another site designed probably, that was 2003 maybe. If you go to leoville.com, that's running a content management system you might have heard of. It's very, very popular, called WordPress. And I use WordPress because it's so popular, I want to know how it works. So when you go to the blog pages on leoville.com, those pages are built. In fact, you can even almost watch it be built as the as the page loads. The images, the text, the video, whatever on that page, and most of it nowadays is audio and video because I'm too lazy to write, are assembled and then delivered to you by the content management system, which is called WordPress. So the new Tech Guy Lab sites, had been, for the current site, is currently still running a content management system, a fairly primitive one. Wiki is what it's called. PM Wiki is the software I used because it was easy. And the design is very, very, very vanilla design. And the idea was, well, it'd be very easy for me to update the site, to modify it, to add content. And I was even hoping that we could get listeners to do that job, but it turned out that spammers were far more interested in updating the site than listeners were. So we turned that feature off. But James DeRuvo, the guy hi James, who does such a great job of taking the show notes as I speak, he's still in there. You know, using the Wiki software, but not for much longer. In a couple of weeks, we're going to open the new Tech Guy Lab site, and we're running a new content management system, one that's used frequently by big companies. MTV uses it. Martha Stewart uses it. The White House uses it. This content management system is called Drupal, D-R-U-P-A-L, Drupal. And it's going to let us do so much more. The new site will have, for instance, I'm really excited about this. It'll be much more, I figure people come to the website, the Tech Guy Lab site, for a couple of reasons. First of all, what the heck is this? You know, where's the show? Where can I hear it? But second, you're listening to the show. I think most of the people who come to that site are people like you who listen to the show but say, oh, Leo mentioned, a camera he liked. What was the name of that? And the idea is, well, we got to make it easy for you to go to the site and find that lickety-split. Maybe throw a few ads in along the way, just a little. Just, if you look for a camera, maybe you'll see. This is the hope. It's not going to happen yet. But maybe it would be cool if you look for a camera and then there were an ad for a camera. Kind of subtle there. That's how you pay for this stuff because it costs a lot of money. We're going to spend almost $100,000 on this new site. Oh, my gosh. So it gives me a lot of sympathy for a small business person, which I am. Nowadays, you got to have a website. This is your presence on the net. Now, sometimes it can be very simple. If it's a restaurant, maybe a menu, but you got to update it, right? Maybe some pictures of the restaurant. If you're really sophisticated, maybe a reservation system. If you're a merchant, maybe you sell stuff online. It gets more and more complicated, doesn't it? And increasingly, it becomes important that it present itself well and that it be professionally designed, and that's where you start getting the big bucks. And people often ask me, well, how much should I spend? And I wish I had an answer, because some people are lucky. You find a student a graphics designer, spend a couple of bucks and you're good to go. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's get to the calls right after this. It is Cinco de Mayo, I guess. Here in California, that's a national holiday. I don't know. Do people celebrate all over I guess they do. We're in a homogenized country these days. Everybody celebrates. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. We're talking about websites and so forth. And I kind of ran out of time, but I really just wanted to mention that we've got a great website coming soon where now you'll be able to. Remember, I was saying that the most important thing on the website, of course, is to explain where what's going on, what the Tech Guy Lab site is, techguylabs.com. And then secondarily, that's for the people who stumble on it by accident. How do you stumble on a website? You're wandering around and all of a sudden, you trip. Anyway, people who stumble on the website will find techguylabs.com and it'll explain that. And maybe you're looking for the station or you want to find the podcast or whatever. That'll all be there. But most importantly, people come to the site, I think, to find out, well, what was that thing Leo talked about or where was that article he mentioned? So the way we're going to do this, there will be a front page that explains what's going on. But then there'll be, of course, a very nice search feature. But you can also just go to any show by date. So if you say, well, it was last Sunday, I'll just go to last Sunday's show. And there, magically, there will be an embedded video of the show. Because we actually, silly me, it is a radio show. I understand. But we've got cameras and we record it. I just for posterity or something. So anyway, so there's there's many. It's not just one camera. There's many cameras all over the place in this show. So we record the whole thing, and then that YouTube, we put it on YouTube. In fact, you can go back. You can search for. Is it on YouTube.com/TWiT? I guess it is, because it's part of the podcast network. So it's YouTube.com/TWiT. You can see the Tech Guy Labs. You can see the show. Or go to techguylabs.com. But so we'll have video. But then if you go to a question, boy, this is the hope. We'll see how it works. But if you go to a question, say, oh yeah, I remember Joe from Fremont asked about what's the best scanner, and you'll see, oh, there's Joe from Fremont scanner, and it'll have a transcription of the question, transcription of the answer, and then your chance to comment underneath it. And I'm hoping that people will help us out here. I want to create this team tech guy so that because there's so many smart people in our chat room and listening to the show, and you can go there. And I know, I could tell, I hear you. You think I don't, yelling at the radio, going, no, Leo. No. That's wrong. That's not the best scanner. So now what you can do is go to, or soon, now you can't do it, but soon you'll go to techguylabs.com. And, you can comment. You could say, no, Leo's wrong. The best scanner is this, and this is why. People will be able to vote comments up and down, so I'm hoping the best comments kind of float to the top. And you'll be able to watch. The video will go, you'll jump right to that portion of the show, so you'll be able to listen to audio or video right from that point on. Read the transcript. It should be good. It should be a lot better. I think this is going to be good. And that's why we're spending so much money on this, because I want this to be a great resource. And this is episode 871. And I plan to go at least to 8,000. So, 10 years from now, when it's the Tech Guy Show, and you tune in, you could say, I wonder what Leo was talking about in 2004, and you'll be able to go all the way back in time and learn the latest about Windows XP. It'll be so exciting. So that's coming soon. The development site is up. The Lullabot team that's doing this has almost finished the design. We're going to start entering data from. We're not going to. I don't know if we can go all the way back initially because it's going to be a lot of data entry, but we'll go back as far as we can and slowly build up the site with previous data, and then going forward, everything will be there. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Enough about that. How about you? 8888 Ask Leo. Garrett's caller number 1 in Rochester, New York. Hi, Garrett. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. I'm a big WordPress user, but today I actually have a question about cell phones.
Okay.
All right. Well, what I'm wondering, I'm one of the 10 people left in the country who's probably on Sprint. I love the fact that it's unlimited bandwidth. unlimited data plan. His coverage is spotty. It's a little slow, but it works.
They're the last ones, but they don't have. This is the problem with Sprint. They don't really have a good 4G offering. They're currently on this WiMAX, which isn't everywhere, and it's not very good. But they're planning to move everything to LTE. But I have a Sprint phone. I love it. I'm very happy with Sprint.
I'm pleased. I do know, they're a little slower than everybody else, but I give them a chance. They'll catch up.
And I think unlimited is a good selling point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's what hooked me.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm really concerned about, though, is I'm seeing, I'm paying close to $100 a month.
Right.
And I'm looking at all these other plans that are out there and saying, I can see these other companies, Boost, Cricket, whoever, and they say they offer unlimited bandwidth for $40 a month. And I'm saying, if I'm locked into a 2-year contract, shouldn't I be getting a better deal than the people who are paying month to month? What am I gonna say?
You're making a very silly assumption that somehow there is rational pricing strategy going on in the cell phone industry. That would be a foolish thing to assume. There is anything but rational. So it is, in fact, possible that Boost and Cricket and Metro PCS, in fact, have cheaper service for month-to-month contracts. If this were a perfect market economy, I guess it wouldn't be that way. But this is one way it's not. Early termination fees. As soon as you buy a phone, as soon as you get a contract, you're locked in. And even, if it were a perfect market economy, then it would be much more fluid. You could just jump around, but you can't. So that's one way they get you. You may see a better deal. Now, there's two different kinds of smaller cell phone companies. Some of them really are full cell phone companies. I think Metro PCS, some Boost they have their own towers, their own cell sites. So the limitation there is their coverage map is much smaller. They're smaller companies. Then there are others that are what we call a MVNO, a mobile virtual network operator. They're really resellers. And a great many of these resellers actually resell Sprint. So in that case, if you could find a Sprint reseller who offered a better deal, that would be a logical move. But I'm pretty sure that Sprint makes sure that doesn't happen. I would guess. Now, I'll give you an example. There's a company called Ting, and I should say that they are an advertiser in the podcast network. But that's one of the reasons I kind of am intimately familiar with the details, ting.com, that resells Sprint service. So you would get exactly the same coverage map. And they're month to month, and they have a different pricing, very different pricing strategy. But here's the disadvantage. Because they're month to month, you pay full price for the cell phones. Many of these companies like Boost and Metro PCS don't offer the same range of cell phones. For instance, none of them offer an iPhone. Only Sprint can sell you an iPhone. So there are ways this works to confuse the consumer ultimately. Virgin Mobile is the same as Sprint. In fact, it's mostly owned by Sprint now. I'm trying to remember Cricket. I don't remember who Cricket is. If Cricket does I bet you Cricket's a reseller. Chat room, do you know? Boost, I think, does their own thing. I think Metro PCS does their own thing. So, you see how hard it is, Garrett? You can't even compare these things. And I want to thank our home theater guy, Scott Wilkinson, ever so much for filling in for me over the last couple of shows. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Leo, you are so welcome. I was so thrilled to do it. I had such a wonderful time. The chat room was great. The call-in questions were great. Kyle was great. Everything was fantastic.
It was all great. Well, thank you. Because Scott flew up to our secret labs here in the wine country of Northern California. And so it was nice to have you come up. I really appreciate it. And thank you for filling in. It's nice for me because it means I can take a little time off and not worry about the show. So thank you.
Well, I stand ready anytime.
Good.
Anytime.
I'm never leaving again. You did too good a job. Scares the heck out of me. I feel like Wally Pip.
I could never fill your shoes. No way.
You know who Wally Pip is, right?
No, I don't.
No one knows who Wally Pip is. Wally Pip was a baseball player. He played. Let me just quickly look up. I think he played first base for the New York Yankees many moons ago. Was a good first baseman. Got injured, got a little injured, and a rookie replaced him. Came in the starting lineup by this rookie. This was 1925, named Lou Gehrig. Wally Pipp never played again. So that was pretty much it for Wally Pipp. So I feel I'm like Wally Pipp here. I'm not letting Lou come back to the plate. Let's put it that way. Anyway, Scott, so I don't know if you have some – I didn't ask you. You got anything from the shows that you want to bring back, or you have some questions you want to answer new stuff?
Oh, sure. No, I got some questions, as always.
Fire.
I want to let people know that, I get more questions than I can possibly answer. I'm only one guy. So if you don't hear from me right away, please forgive me. But
now you know why I do not give out an email address.
Yeah, well, I do answer as many as I can, and I answer them on my website, hometheater.com. And I also answer them here on your show, and I'm so happy to do it. Chris Freebus has an older receiver that just died. His son kind of killed it, and he wants a new one, but he wants one with a digital audio out, either coax or optical, because he has a wireless headphone transmitter that does 5.1 audio and can accept either optical or digital or coaxial digital input. But the problem is virtually I looked around, I don't see any modern receivers that have a digital audio output. They've gone away. And I looked around. He said, what can I do? And I said, I can't find anything. He did find the Pioneer Elite VSX52, last year's model, that has one, and a digital output, but lists for $900, and his budget is $500. So I looked online, and you can get the VSX52 for in the round $700. Not from Pioneer, from a full price kind of place, but so if you can squeeze out a couple more $100, you can do it. Otherwise, I'm not sure what to do. There are analog to optical digital converters, but they only do 2-channel, and he seems to want 5.1. So it's a tricky question. I'm going to keep looking into it to see if I can find a receiver that has a digital audio out. I'm not even sure why they stopped doing that. It used to be common.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
I'm
shocked, actually.
Yeah, I am too. I thought it was would be a no-brainer, but I can't find it.
Huh.
So there you go.
Shocking.
Anyway, I've got also from Michael Leisure.
Good name.
He wants to buy a 32-inch monitor strictly for computer use, web and spreadsheets, that sort of thing. And he says, is it imperative to use 120 hertz?
Imperative? I hope not.
The answer is absolutely not.
Yeah.
There's no reason to spend the extra money for a 120 hertz monitor.
Well, but it depends. I mean, if it were a computer monitor, maybe. But for television...
Well, yeah, exactly. Though that's what he says he wants. It's strictly for computer use.
Ah.
So I say there's no reason at all. There's no reason for you to spend the money on the 120 hertz because... you're not watching movies. You're not probably watching TV. You might be watching some video on the web, but it's going to be pretty low quality generally anyway.
Yeah.
So I say don't spend the money.
Now I may be here's where I become an old man. But was my recollection is that LCD monitors are always 60 hertz no matter what. But obviously that may not be the case. In TVs, it's not anymore.
No, true. It could be with LCD TVs, it could be more. It could be 120.
They can go to 120 or 240. But I think on computer monitors, it's all 60 hertz. It's not like a CRT where you had different refresh rates. I don't think that's meaningful in the land of LCDs. But I may be wrong. I'm sure the chat room will correct me on that.
I don't see any reason to have 60 hertz on a computer monitor.
Anything other than 60 hertz.
Anything other than 60 hertz is what I meant. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Because of the way LCDs work, because they're progressive scan, there's no flicker in an LCD. So that's why we wanted higher refresh rates on CRTs, those old glass tubes, because they flickered. But these don't flicker anymore.
Now, the reason you want higher frame rate or refresh rate, it's called, on an LCD TV is to combat what's called motion blur.
Right.
So things that are in fast motion across a large LCD screen at 60 hertz will look blurry. And you can solve that by refreshing the screen at 120 hertz or 240 hertz, taking a look at sequential frames, at 2 consecutive frames, and saying, where are the objects moving and where would they be if they were being shown more often? And then synthesizing those frames with the moving object in the intermediate positions. Now, that clears up a lot of motion blur, but it also introduces an artifact called the soap opera effect, which makes which makes movies, particularly movies shot at 24 frames per second, look more like they were shot on video, like a soap opera.
Right.
And people really hate that. A lot of people really, really hate that, and they turn off.
I do too.
What's called frame interpolation.
It looks plastic to me.
Exactly. You are in the majority of people.
Oh, really? That's surprising because the television industry apparently thinks that I'm in the minority because every TV now is 120 hertz or 240, and it's usually on by default. Every time we test a TV,
in and turn it out.
We have a TV. We bring in TVs for testing for our review show before you buy. In fact, I'm looking at a big LG right now. Every single time I have to go in and turn it off. It's on by default now.
That's correct. That's correct. But I believe you are absolutely in the strong majority.
Isn't that interesting? You know, the television industry seems to, nowadays, the HDTV industry seems to push things on people that they aren't really asking for. I'm thinking of Sharp's decision to add yellow to red, green, blue.
Really didn't improve the color,
didn't do anything.
Yeah, except make the color less accurate.
Right. Higher refresh rates. And I'm going to throw in 3D, although everybody yells at me every time I do throw in 3D.
Well, you're not. I'm not sure if you're in the majority there.
I know
I'm not. You're certainly in a very strong minority, a very large minority. Yeah. A lot of people don't like 3D.
Yeah, and all of this is to add features to sets to get you back in the store because, frankly, the sales for HD TVs dropped dramatically last year because everybody who wanted one had one. Saturation.
I heard a statistic recently that 60-some% of U.S. homes now have HD TVs.
Wow.
So that's pretty high.
Scott Wilkinson, online editor for Home Theater Magazine, hometheater.com. And I'm going to tell you right when we come back about his podcast, too. Thank you, Scott.
You bet. My pleasure.
Love that song. Doot, 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 ba-doot, ba-doot, doot, bop, boop, boop, boop. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thanks to Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guy. It was so great being able to go to Norway, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. It was a wonderful photo festival in Kristiansand, Norway, that I was at. Thanks to Scott for filling in. He does a podcast on our TWiT network every Monday. We do it live, but you can download it after the fact, too. But if you want to watch live, it's 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 Eastern time. And you do the math for the in-between parts. And his guest this week, tomorrow, or day after tomorrow, I should say, will be Avner Ronen, who is the CEO and founder of Boxy, which is a really interesting company. They made software for a long time for computers that turned them into media centers, much better than Windows Media Center, I thought. And then they did a deal with D-Link to make something called the Boxy Box, which you could still buy. It's one of those devices you hook up to a TV to give it internet access and be able to watch Netflix and do all sorts of other stuff, including watch your own media on your big screen. It's a very cool-looking device. They became a for-profit company. They were an open-source project. They became a for-profit company and stopped offering the desktop software for download, unfortunately. But they do have, I think, a very, very compelling product. Including a new one, Boxy Live TV, which really makes it easier to do the cord cutting if you're within range of an antenna that can, pick up stations. Anyway, that should be fun. Tomorrow, 1:30 Pacific on TWiT.tv. Or day after tomorrow. I'm sorry, Sunday is tomorrow. Monday is the show. Avner Ronen of Boxy with Scott Wilkinson. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo's the number. Let's go to Montana. Say hi to Gary. Gary, Leo Laporte, welcome.
Hi, Leo. I Appreciate your show.
Thanks for calling.
I've got a MacBook Pro, and I'm trying to back it up. I've been using Time Machine, but lately, for some reason, this Time Machine program wants to back up the entire drive. It's like 175.
Don't let it. Yeah, that's a. So you can go into the Time Machine settings. You know, it's an Apple. It comes with the OS 10, and there's a Time Machine system preference pane, and you can say, if you click the options, what to back up and what not to back up.
Right.
By default, it should just back up the home folder.
But can you? Isn't there a program that'll just do an incremental backup of whatever
Sure.
changed?
Well, that's what. So I don't use Time Machine, or actually I use it in conjunction with other programs because backup is one of those things where there's different needs. So one of the things that's great about Time Machine is it's simple. Most people don't have to change settings at all. They just attach an external drive, or they have if you get a time capsule, which Apple sells, which is a Wi-Fi router plus hard drive if you plug in, or you can plug in a hard drive to your Anyway, there's a lot of different ways to get a hard drive on your system, and then Time Machine. When you do that on a Mac nowadays, Time Machine will pop up and say, "You want me to back up to this drive?" And if you say yes, then what happens is it automatically backs up documents as they're changed. You can have versioning, which means you can go back day by day. So if you're doing a word processor document, you add a paragraph today, another one tomorrow, another one day after tomorrow. Time Machine will let you go back to each version, which is very nice. Of course, in order for this all to work, you have to have a big enough hard drive. It's got to be bigger than your internal drive, the drive you're backing up, to keep all these versions. But the Time Machine handles it pretty well. It's designed for somebody who doesn't want to think about it. And so I do think it's a good thing for Apple to include because people can just turn it on and at least they have something. But I don't do it all by itself. Now, probably, since you want more, you want a little more sophisticated, I would take a look at Super Duper. That's one program I'd look at. This is a free program, Super Duper. And it predates Boxy, but they updated it so that Boxy. It predates Time Machine, but they updated it so it works with Time Machine. What Super Duper does is kind of the opposite of what you just described, but maybe not. And this is why I use it. The first time you run it, it will format the external drive and make it an exact duplicate of your internal drive. Now, here's why you might want to do that. If the internal drive dies, you just reboot the Mac, hold down the Option key, choose the external drive. It'll boot from it. It's bootable, and it's a duplicate. And you can even tell Super Duper, just keep that up to date. So it's always an exact duplicate of your internal drive. So that's one way to go. The other way to go, which is more what you were saying, which is I don't want to, it sounds like you don't want to do continuous backup. You want to weekly do an incremental backup. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't care how often it does it, but I just would like it to be incremental and not be doing the whole drive at the same time. Well, it is incremental. Time Machine, in theory, only backs up changes. That's what incremental means. Yeah, but 175 gigabytes is not incremental.
You mean every time it backs up, it says, I want to back up 175 gigabytes?
It'll back up the whole thing, and then 2 or 3 days later, I'll get the message, and it says, that it did the backup, but now it wants to start a new backup.
Well, there's something wrong. Yeah, you're right. There's something wrong. Because it's not supposed to do that. What it's supposed to do is transparently, without doing anything in the background, it's just going to do, the first time it'll do all 175 gigabytes. Actually, the first time it won't do the whole hard drive unless you've changed it. You might look at your settings. The first time what it will do is back up your home directory, and then thereafter, whenever anything changes, it will just back that up. It will do a fully incremental backup. So something's gone wrong with the settings.
Maybe I'll try that Super Duper. I do use a Wi-Fi or a drive, an external hard drive that's on my network. And
this shouldn't make any difference. I'm not sure what happened, but I would take a look at Super Duper. There's for more advanced features it's $27.95, but it's free for the basic features. And the other one that I will recommend and I use, which is a little more sophisticated than any of them, is called ChronoSync. It's also a little harder to use. The more sophisticated you get, the more features you add, the more difficult, of course, it is to use. ChronoSync is from econtechnologies.com, E-C-O-N. technologies.com. And what it does is it's very smart. It only backs up changes. It has it's much more configurable. You can have different backup sets. It's more like a traditional backup program you might be used to. It's $40, not free, although they have a free trial. So between and I use all three, and Carbonite, by the way. Between Time Machine, ChronoSync, and Super Duper, you're going to find something that will do everything you need.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Sure, Gary, anytime. Yeah, and I would something's wrong with Time Machine if it's doing all of that. Somebody's asking me on the PC side, are there Windows programs that are similar? I don't use the Microsoft Backup program. That's free. I wish it had. It will, I believe in Windows 8, it will have very much the Time Machine features. There is versioning now in Windows 7. Never quite figured out how it works. Talda in the chat room says that he likes ARQ. ARQ. Oh, this is for the Mac only. This is an interesting choice. So I'll talk about ARQ. Yeah, Steve Gibson recommended it the other day. On the Windows side, there are a lot of choices. Backup on Windows, you can start with Microsoft's solution. I would go and visit easeus.com. They have a very good imaging program, backup program. Both are free, I believe, for non-commercial use. But there are thousands of choices on the Windows side, of course. Well, a good day to you, Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion. 8888-275-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S., outside the U.S. Skype me. If you Skype out, it's still toll free. Won't cost you a cent. 8888 Ask Leo. We're going to get to Don in Santa Monica in just a second. His iPad pictures are upside down. But before we do, I got the conversation going on backup, and we've been talking in the chat room, and I think maybe this would be a good time. I like to every once in a while cover these basic issues and give you an idea of what you should be doing as a general user. And backup is a good one. Now, we always are talking about Carbonite. That's our sponsor, and it's certainly that is a great place to start. But let me just talk in kind of a more general terms about what I think one should do as backup. The fundamental idea of backup is very simple. You need multiple copies of the stuff you create. You don't need copies of your operating system. Presumably you have a disk or somewhere else that it exists. You don't need copies of your applications. Again, you probably already have those. You need to make copies of the stuff you made. I don't copy, and I think it's probably a waste of time to copy things like movies and music you've ripped. Nowadays with music, whether it's Google Music, Amazon Music, or iTunes Match, most of the time your music is there are many ways that you can keep copies of your music safe. So I don't have to back music up anymore. That's nice. I don't back up DVDs I've ripped. I figure, well, I got the DVD. I could always re-rip it. The most important thing to back up is the stuff you made that you have no other copies of, right? That's the stuff you don't want to lose. Now, let me say the reason I want you to back up as little as possible is if you're backing up, like our caller, backing up 175 gigabytes every day, you're not going to do it. It takes too long. It slows down your machine. You really want to back up the smallest amount that you need to. Back up no more than you have to, but back up everything you need. And that is everything you've created that you don't want to lose. Now, if there's stuff you create that you don't care about, your grocery list, you don't need to back that up. But you do want to back up financial records. Email nowadays, we don't probably have to back up because most of us use web-based email like Gmail, Hotmail, or Yahoo that's always preserved anyway. We don't need to worry about that. It's one good reason to use Gmail. Google's got a copy. But if there's something you really need in that, I have a saved folder in my email, stuff that I know I'm going to want. Then it might be a good idea to back that up. So you want to start by thinking about what can I not afford to lose? What am I, and back up no more than you have to, but everything you must have. Now, the next question is, well, okay, what are my steps? So here's what I recommend. This is for Windows, Mac, Linux, any operating system. First thing I think it's a great thing to have is a disk that is an image of your entire hard drive. Now, this is contrary to what I just said, but you only do this once. You make a disk image that is, I hope, bootable. That would be the best. That has your operating system set up the way you like it. So the next time you set up a computer system or you buy a new computer system, get all the apps, not all the, all the necessary apps. Get the desktop the way you like it, the colors, whatever. Get it the way you like it. Get all the updates on there. And then burn an image. Make an image copy. It could be on an external drive. It could be on a CD. This is for ease of restoring your operating system if there should be a calamity, a hard drive fails or you get a virus or whatever. It makes it very easy to get back to ground zero. And this is a nice thing to have. It's a lot faster than rerunning the operating system installer. It saves you a lot of configuration time. It's a very nice thing to have. And frankly, it's also useful for rescuing you. Because you've got a bootable disk. This is why I like that program Super Duper on the Mac, or EaseUS's imaging, Acronis True Image. There's a lot of imaging programs. Norton Ghost was the first. That's why they sometimes call this ghosting the drive. You make a bit-for-bit copy of the drive that's bootable. And even better, to have it on an external drive so that if the system has a catastrophic failure of the internal hard drive, no problem. You plug in the external drive, you boot to it, you're still running. You don't miss a beat. So first thing to do, and do this whenever you get a new system or you install a new operating system or you just do a clean install. It's nice to keep it up to date with the latest updates and so forth. That's a bootable image disk of the system the way you like it. Keep that around. You put that aside. That's not critical to keep up to date, and if you lose it in a fire, it's not the end of the world. So that can be kept on site. Now we want to make backups of our own personal data as these things happen. And you want to make, this is where we get to that 3-2-1 backup I've talked about. Peter Krogh, my personal guru in data preservation. He wrote the DAM book, the Digital Asset Management book, coined this term, the 3-2-1 backup. It's very good to remember this. 3 copies of every file. Now, that could be an original and 2 copies. If you delete a copy from your drives, a lot of people make a backup, then delete the original, and they say, well, I'm backed up. No, you're not. 1 copy is not a backup, because backups fail too. At least 2 copies. And my preference, and I think Peter's right on this, is 3 copies of everything. Whether that's an original and 2 backups or 3 backups, 3 copies of everything. Now, this is an interesting one. The 2 in 3-2-1 is 2 different forms of media. So if you back up to a hard drive, maybe the other one should be to a DVD or to the cloud. 2 different forms of media. That means you're less dependent on media. If everybody backed everything up to zip disks, those backups might be useless now if you don't have a zip drive, right? So it's good to have it on multiple forms of media. That one maybe is optional. Then the one is off-site. So 3 copies of everything, 2 different forms of media, and then this is the most important one, frankly. One of them off-site. And that's because you're planning for disaster. And a disaster could be a real disaster, like the house burns down or there's an earthquake or whatever. And if your backups are sitting there next to your computer, you could lose those too. And this is important. I know a novelist, for instance. I've mentioned this before. I won't say who it is. You will know her name. Very famous novelist writing a novel. She lived in the Oakland Hills I guess it must have been about 20 years ago now. And there was a big fire in Oakland, California, in the hills. We get these wildfires sometimes. Her house burned down. And with it, her computer that had her new novel that she'd been writing on it, and the backups. She lost her novel. Now, that's a terrible thing. So that's what we're talking about, is we want to preserve that thing that would just kill you to lose it, whether it's your baby pictures, your wedding pictures, your financial records, your novel, your painting, whatever it is. And getting it off-site means that even if there's something horrible, like a wildfire burns everything, you've got a copy somewhere else. My friend Steve Gibson, our hard drive guru, makes DVDs and mails them to his mom. He lives in Southern California. She lives in Northern California. That's fine. That's a good, it's a little his mom says, I don't know what to do with these. He says, just put them in the closet. It's fine. I think that's a great idea. Some people just make a external hard drive backup, and every week they bring it to work. They swap it out. If you've got 2 external hard drives, back up to one all week long, and then take it to work, bring the other one back, continue to do that. That works. But the idea is get it off-site. Internet is very good for this. That's why I always talk about Carbonite. That's a very easy way to do that. So 3 copies of everything, 2 different media, and 1 off-site. And the ideal backup solution would do this automatically without your thinking about it. So it just always happens. So think about your strategy. Do think about what you couldn't afford to lose, and make sure you're doing something about it. Really. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Oh my God, oh my God, my God. I'm backing up, backing up, backing up, backing up.
The backing up song. You know, there's no topic in technology that somebody hasn't written a silly song about. And this proves it. And auto-tune. Thank you, Kyle Benham, our musical director and master of auto-tune. Kyle, have you got a job yet?
Still working.
Still working on it. All right,
getting that job.
We gotta get Kyle a job, otherwise he has to leave us. It's only a weekend job doing the Tech Guy show. It isn't a full-time job, and he's got this great business, but it's back in Baltimore. So, he does these helicopters with big LED signs below them that fly around events and stuff. It's a really good idea. But unfortunately, it's not here. It's in Balmer. So we're trying to get Kyle a gig. This is a smart kid, very talented. He's our musical director, board op. And if you go to adkyle.com, it's an ad for Kyle. Get it? Adkyle.com. And you can find out everything he's done that's so great. And a lovely picture of him smiling and wearing headphones. And anybody's got a gig for him, please help. Please, because I don't want to lose our musical director. ADKYLE, adkyle.com. Don, you're so patient. Thank you for holding on. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Oh, well, okay, welcome back, Leo, and I'm waiting to hear your report on your trip.
Oh, I had so much fun in Norway. What a amazing country and great people.
Yeah, I've been there. Oh, it's beautiful.
I'd been to every other country in Scandinavia, and everybody said, well, you went to the most beautiful country, right, Norway? And I said, no, I went to Sweden, I went to Finland, I went to Denmark, but I haven't been so this was the first time, and I was we sailed the fjords on the Hurtigrute, and it was amazing.
Oh, yeah, great. I'm not new to the iPad. I had the iPad 2 for about 8 months. I sold it. I got the new iPad. Beautiful, beautiful camera. The resolution is terrific.
I know. I'm very happy they finally put a decent camera in this thing.
Yeah. Now, when I take my pictures on my screen are fine. It's when I email my pictures out or a small video out, they come to the recipient upside down.
That's bizarre.
I know. I've been to the Apple Store 3 times.
What did the geniuses say? The genii had no solutions, huh?
Well, they told me to reformat it.
Yeah, right. That's always the answer.
I did that twice.
And nothing, huh?
Nothing.
I'm gonna guess here that there's actually a hardware issue that your accelerometer is giving the wrong information to the photo. So here's the deal. The iPad is rotatable. It doesn't matter. The whole idea is you could turn it any which way, and the screen rotates around with it. That means you could take a picture any which way, and the picture will always be upright. But information is stored in that picture as to its orientation. And that information should be used when you email stuff out. Now, there's a couple of things. Your rotation is not locked, right? It will rotate.
No, it's not. It's not locked, and I always shoot the picture in the same way. My iPad 2, no problems with that. It's the button's always on the left-hand side. My reset button.
Right. And and when you email it, do you email it from the iPad?
iPad itself, yes. It's gone to my brother in Australia.
He's in Australia. Well, no wonder. Of course it's upside down.
He says it's upside down. No, I send it to other people, and they say the same thing.
So it's not any. It's not, for instance, any particular email client that's doing this.
No, it's. I have Yahoo. I don't know if that's who sends it out, but.
So that's the only. So either the information is not being stored in the photo. When you take the pictures, when you sync up your iPad to your desktop, is the orientation proper?
Yes.
So when you take it in portrait mode or landscape mode, it always is getting the right orientation?
Yes.
Okay. So now we know the hardware is working fine. There's nothing wrong with your iPad.
No. They said it's nothing wrong with
yeah,
my iPad.
and I would agree. There's nothing wrong with the iPad. I think the issue is that whatever software these people are using to display these images is just ignoring the orientation information.
But why with iPad too? They never had a problem, but now with the new iPad, it's a problem. Same people getting the same pictures and video.
Why? You know, when it comes to Apple products, I find asking why.
I know. Has Sarah Lane heard of this problem on your iPad?
Well, I'll tell you, there is a discussion thread. It's not about the iPad. It's about the iPhone. That it covers this topic on the Apple discussions. We'll put this in the show notes. When my mom sends me photos of our dog with her iPad 2, they always come to me upside down. Why?
They do.
And then somebody's saying, I see this too. It happened with my phone. Volume button up, pictures in Windows Photo Viewer upside down. Volume button down, pictures in Windows Photo are taken correctly. That's bizarre. That's because that's only on the phone, obviously, not on the iPad.
Yeah. But
it is not a bug in the iPhone. It's a bug in the viewing software, according to this thread. There have been several threads about this, quote, problem in the last couple of years. The EXIF metadata, this is what I was talking about, contains a field which says how the image should be rotated. This is written to by the iPad. It says it should be, this is the upside, this side up. However, if that information is ignored, the software won't display it properly. Now, here's what's happened. iOS devices, older iOS devices, physically rotated the image. So they sent out a rotated image properly. So the software that your friends are using would just look at the image. They wouldn't rotate it. They just would say it's right. Current versions of the iOS software leave the image as taken, but store the orientation in this metadata and expect the software, the displaying software, to rotate it appropriately.
yeah.
So that's what's going on. In the old days, the image was pre-rotated. So the issue is the software that's being using it to display. Now, this is Apple doing the right, believe it or not, doing the right thing. It's the software that's displaying it, the email package, is doing the wrong thing.
Oh, I'm going to buy all my friends a Lazy Susan. They can strap it onto the back of their monitor, and then when the pictures come, they just turn their monitor over. No problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a junky answer because it doesn't fix the problem.
No.
Presumably, as time goes by, these programs, whatever it is, Gmail, Hotmail, AOL Mail, will wise up. Meantime, what you might want to do is do some processing on your iPad. In other words, open it in iPhoto, which I really like. That's not a free program. Apple just released that with a new iPad. I highly recommend it.
I have it, iPhoto.
Yeah, maybe use the rotator in iPhoto to make it upright and then save it out before. You can email from iPhoto. Try that. There will be a way for you to modify it. What's happening is their software is not doing any rotation. It's just displaying it as sent.
I'll try to send
send it upright. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, iPhotos. I'm going to talk about iPhoto on the iPad when I come back because it was really great to have. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So extreme. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. After doing a little more research, it does. This issue of rotated photos is ubiquitous. It's because Apple changed how it did it. They're actually doing it right. In a technical sense. It's just that it's confusing software that doesn't yet understand that. The issue is with the iPhone and the iPad, you can take pictures in any rotation. Actually, if you think about it, you could do that with any camera. You could take a picture horizontally or vertically. We call that portrait mode versus landscape mode, tall versus wide. And the camera, in at least high-quality cameras, point-and-shoots maybe not, but in high-quality cameras, the camera just stores information about, is this portrait or landscape? How is this oriented? And leaves it at that. It does not modify the photo. The reason being, every time you change a photo, you rotate it, for instance, you lower the quality. It's just what happens. So a good high-quality camera is not going to do that. The iPad and the iPhone, Apple decided, look, we don't want to do any extra manipulation of the image. We're going to do it right. We're going to store the image rotation in a field that's designed specifically for that and trust that the displaying software on the other end will do the right thing, except that most software doesn't yet. The solution is very simple, is open that photo in iPhoto or the camera application and rotate it manually, save it out, and then it'll be fine. The other thing you could do is notice that this happens when you take a picture in one particular orientation. Our caller said, I always have the photo button on the left. That's upside down. So stop taking the pictures that way. Rotate your iPad, take them the other way. And then they'll work. So that's the other. You're holding it wrong. This is very common in the tech world, and it's because standards change rapidly. You can often, and Apple will always choose this, do things technically appropriately, and that will just mess it up for everybody else because nobody else is doing things technically appropriately. And everybody else gets messed up. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. Joe is in Buffalo, New York, our next caller. Hi, Joe. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Howdy.
Howdy.
I've always heard it was good practice not to respond to spam emails when they say, they give you an unsubscribe link. And that just doesn't...
All that stuff, if it depends on the spammer. If it's a legitimate company, that might work. If it's a truly evil spammer, all that does is say, yep, this is a real address. Keep using it.
Well, what really annoys me is every once in a while I get spam SMS on my
I hate that
phone.
too, because it costs you money.
Yeah, it's a dime for the incoming message at least.
Yeah.
And then I heard an SMS, the stop word is supposed to be somehow magical, and a lot of the messages they do include, to stop these, send stop, but that costs me another dime or another...
and it makes me nervous because, of course, they have to honor stop, right?
Yeah, that too.
And sometimes it's possible, not likely, but it's possible to, by sending a text message to them, trigger this is called slamming, trigger a costly subscription. This is a big problem in the cell phone industry. What happens is you, in effect, are signing up for a service. Now, Stop shouldn't be doing that, but you got, what if it did? Then you would be continue to get these messages, and they would cost you even more because they're premium messages. The cell phone companies know about this, but they get a cut of it. They've gotten in trouble. Congress has talked about this. If you want to read more, you could Google SMS slamming. It is a bad thing. I would complain to your cell phone. I mean, one thing you can do is go to your cell phone company and say, hey, I don't like this. If you're on an Android phone, there is software that will block text messages from unknown numbers that should work, or by filter. It's called the anti-SMS spam and text filter. If you're on an iPhone, there is something called the iPhone blacklist. I don't know how well it works. Basically, something we all live with. I hate it. And it's illegal. But it's very difficult to pursue.
Really
it is illegal. But it's but it's very difficult to pursue this. So you can contact the cell phone company and say, I don't want this to happen.
Oh, yeah, the carriers have every incentive in the world
but they
to
make
keep
money.
Exactly. They get money.
So when you complain about it, all they'll do is block that particular number. But guess what? Spammers are smarter than that. They just change the number.
Sure. So your recommendation would be just to ignore it mostly?
Yeah, I would ignore it. I would not send stop That can really work the wrong way. And this, at best, it lets them know they've got a real phone number. At worst, it could actually subscribe you. You could slam yourself. And you should check your bill. Everybody should check their cell phone bill carefully to make sure that you're not getting a service, a monthly service that's sent to you, horoscope service. Kids sometimes turn these things on, not realizing it's $2.99 a message or something like that.
Oh yeah, well, I'm on a prepaid plan, so yeah.
Yeah, it costs you money.
Every time counts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So on Android, there's a number of programs. I'm gonna, let me put a link from the How To Geek, my friend Chris Perillo's website. He's got an article on how to block SMS spam messages that gives you some more information. And I'll put that in the show notes, techguylabs.com.
Well, thank you very much for your advice.
You're welcome. You can complain to the phone company or even the FCC, but it's not going to work because spammers are like cockroaches. You you close one opening and they just find another one. It's really terrible. It's really terrible. And there's an even bigger issue which we really have to address, and I think that Congress is coming down hard on this, called slamming. It's when you without your permission or without explicit permission get signed up for stuff. Slamming actually has an older definition, which is when your wireline, your domestic, your landline phone service gets switched without permission to a different long-distance company. That's the original slamming. But now the definition has been extended to include this, subscription to paid SMS services, which is really a problem and is illegal. In fact, there's not supposed to be any text message spamming. It's supposed to be illegal. Spammers, when there's money to be made and technology involved, it's very difficult because spammers, once they're motivated, they have all sorts of sneaky ways of getting around this stuff. It's very difficult to prevent. 8888 Ask Leo, 888-827-5536. The website is techguylabs.com. We do put show notes there. This is episode 871. James DeRuvo, our show note expert, will jot everything down. I think he's at a Boy Scout retreat today, so we may not get the show notes up until tomorrow or the next day. He's a Scoutmaster, so we like to give him the weekends off sometime. But they will get up there, techguylabs.com. More of your calls right after this.
Lead to victories in all we set out to do. We're the Boy Scouts of America. We plan hand in hand each
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. That one's for James DeRuvo, is out being a Scoutmaster this weekend. That means the show notes will be a little bit delayed, but they will be up. Usually he gets back and gets them out there by Monday at the latest at techguylabs.com. Rick's in Long Beach, our next caller. Hi, Rick. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. I wanted to first thank you for your incredible Leo backup plan because you saved me. I had both a hard drive crash.
Oh my!
And my backup was a little portable that I kept in a bag in a car that I sold.
Whoops. They get a little extra bonus. Not only do they get a car, they get a free backup.
Yeah, so what happened is, I kind of junked it, and I couldn't get it, and I went through all this trouble, but I had this laptop, and it crashed, and I didn't get another one right away, but I had a second backup in a different location, and what happened is, with that second backup, I also had carbonite.
Good.
So I not only had the second backup, but I actually didn't remember that second backup. And then weeks later, I said, son of a gun, I remember talking to you last year. And I said, did I do that? And I remember doing it, and I had about 90% of everything.
Oh.
And then I went on carbonite and then filled in the gap.
Oh, hallelujah. Golly.
Yeah, I got another laptop, and I'm doing great. But I'm calling you for two reasons. Number one, I want to ask you about picture viewing on my computer. Then I want to ask you quickly about analog TV that's no longer there. But in picture viewing, now with my new laptop, when I go into a file that has my photos, I don't see little images.
You're using Windows 7?
I'm in Windows 7, and I don't see those little images anymore.
Right. You need to turn on thumbnail view. It should do that automatically. That was one of the features they added, I think, to Windows 7. Maybe they did it in Vista, where the operating system was smart enough to say, this is pictures, and it would change the automatic view to a thumbnail view. So
where do I find thumbnail view?
Well, you know, when you're looking in Windows Explorer, there's a drop-down that shows you the different views, details, icon, and there should be a thumbnail view in that to have automatic previews. I'm wondering, though, if those have been turned off, and if they have, because it should just happen automatically. You're using, now, I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but is Arrow turned on?
Never heard of it.
What's So in Windows 7, there's and this may be why this isn't happening. In Windows 7, there are two ways that the desktop can look. One has all these lovely glass-like features and transparencies. For instance, at the bottom on the taskbar, if you've got multiple programs open, when you hover your mouse over it, you'll get a little preview of what that window would look like. There's a transparency to window bars, things like that. If that is turned off, you won't get these because, and it may be that that's what happened because your laptop may have said, hey, you know, it's not fast enough. Windows will automatically turn off some visual effects depending on the speed of the machine and its graphics card, and it may be that that has been turned off. That might be why it disappeared. So make sure Arrow, first of all, Arrow is turned on. So you don't have a basic theme or whatever. Your visual effects have to be fast enough. You have to be in true color mode. You have to have support for DirectX 9, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can perhaps re-enable thumbnail previews. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a link. This is actually a great tutorial on how to re-enable this from a site called 7forums.com. And it gives you what the requirements are to have thumbnail previews turned on, and then B, how to turn it on if it's been turned off. What it is that Windows automatically now in 7, and you've probably seen this Windows Experience Score will look at your capabilities, hard drive speed, processor speed, graphics processor speed, and then based on the capabilities of the system, turn on or off features. This was kind of a response to people complaining that Windows was too slow because it was doing too much. And so visual effects can be turned on or off. In fact, you even have a setting in Windows where you say, let Windows manage visual effects, or no, I want to turn them on or off based on what I want to do. I would let Windows manage it because it's trying to give you good balance, good performance with visual appeal. I like having those previews, though, so I understand why you want to turn them on. So check first in Explorer to see if the drop-down allows you to turn on thumbnails. If it's not displaying automatically, it's been disabled either automatically by Windows or somebody changed the settings. And I put a link in the chat room to the I'll try to get this in the show notes. I guess because James isn't here, he's not going to see it in the chat room. So I'll try to get this into the show notes so that you can turn that back on. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. 8888 Ask Leo. Next, Killy in Hollywood. Hi, Killy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi.
Hey.
Leo?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. This is Killy. Just want to ask you a question. I've got I videotaped, cut to the chase. I'm trying to get a video clip onto Windows Movie Maker.
Okay.
I've converted this video that I taped on my Canon DC220 a year and a half ago, which is a VRO file apparently.
VRO. All right.
Yeah. Now I've converted it to an MPG file, an AVI file, and kept it as the VRO. Every time when I try to get it into Movie Maker, when I try to move the MPG file, it says could not be imported. An interface has too many methods to fire from. I have no idea what that means. AVI.
I don't either. Whoa. Too many.
.VRO says not a supported file type, and it cannot be imported into Windows Movie Maker. So, I don't know. I've been, and by the way, you're not the first person I've called on this.
The DC 220 records onto DVD, am I right?
Correct.
There's your problem right there. So, and you can solve this. First thing to do is make sure you close the DVD. Now, realize this will mean you can no longer record to that DVD.
That's good.
So,
you mean, is that the same thing as finalizing it?
Yes.
Okay, that I've done.
You have been finalizing it. All right, because most of the time your Windows operating system can't even read it if it's not finalized. The VRO files, this is how I knew you were recording to DVD, are a special format of video designed for exactly this, for streaming video off a DVD. What you want to do is convert it to a more standard format before Windows Movie Maker will be able to read it. The standard format for standard DVDs is VOB files, but you don't see VOB files on your DVD at this point, right?
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. Those VOB files they're actually a kind of omnibus file containing both the MPEG-2 video and the audio, the AAC audio. And I'm not sure if Windows Movie Maker can even read VOB files. Didn't your camera come with any software?
Oh, that's the fun part. Yes, it came with a Pinnacle DVD or CD, which this was, I think I got this video, I got it back in 2007. And I wasn't interested in that then. I'm interested in it now.
Of course.
So I tried to upload or download that DVD, that Pinnacle.
Because usually the way they solve this is by giving you software that can read the format. Here's an interesting trick that Trick IW in our chat room just passed along. It turns out those VRO files can be read by Windows Movie Maker if you just rename them.
I tried that too.
And that didn't work.
Didn't work.
So according to this forum thread that he posted, and I guess you did mention you did this, you changed the file extension from .vro to .mpg, and then Windows Movie Player opens them.
MPG says could not be imported, and interface has too many methods.
That's when you get that weird thing. I think what you want to probably do is get a different program than Windows Movie Maker that is more capable, that can just open that VRO file. I suspect you could do a trial version and see if this will help. Adobe Premiere Elements. It's about an $80 or $90 program for editing video. It's actually far superior to Windows Movie Maker. But download the trial and see if that will open it.
Adobe Premiere Elements?
Yeah, Adobe Premiere Elements. It's a much better program. Another one that's free that should be able to open them, I don't know if it'll do the conversion or not, but should at least let you watch those movies, is VLC from videolan.org. There are other free and shareware programs like MPEG Stream Clip that should open those VRO files. What you've got to do is convert them to MPEG-2, and then you can open them up. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. And it's time to talk computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, and all that jazz. The gizmos, the gadgets, the doodads. There's a lot of good words for gadgets, aren't there? That fill our lives. The little shinies. Phone number if you want to call in with a question, a comment, a suggestion, a correction. 8888 Ask Leo. I was talking at the beginning of the show about the new Tech Guy Labs website that's coming in the next few weeks. That'll be another great way you can give us feedback because, I often feel like I can hear people yelling at me through the radio. You ever yelled at the radio? No, Leo, you're wrong! Well, now instead of yelling at the radio, you'll be able to go to techguylabs.com and add your comments. And I personally welcome that. For instance, our last call. Guy has that Canon camcorder that records to DVDs. I always thought it was a terrible idea. Thank goodness they don't make them anymore. But he's stuck with it, and now it's making DVDs with the video files on it, VRO video files. He can't do anything with. And so, of course, there are a lot of ways to answer that question. There are a lot of programs out there that will read the VRO files. He wants to use Windows Movie Maker. It won't. But, you know, one thing that somebody suggested is you've got to, part of the issue could be you don't have the proper codec on your machine. That's the software that decompresses the file. All video is compressed. If it weren't, you couldn't use it. It's just too big for even a modern computer to process. So it's all compressed, and VRO files, like all DVD files, are at base. Inside that VRO file is an MPEG-2 file. That's the compression format. The Motion Picture Experts Group, MPEG, version 2. There's an MPEG-1, and yes, there's an MPEG-3. And most commonly, actually, I don't know if there's an MPEG-3. I think we jumped from 2 to 4. The common one, MPEG-4, now. But MPEG-2, all DVDs have MPEG-2 encoded video. Your computer, in order to read a file with an MPEG-2 encoded video inside, has to have a codec, a decompressor for MPEG-2. Windows 7 comes with an MPEG-2 decompressor, but maybe it's not registered properly or maybe it's not usable. Another way to get an MPEG-2 codec on there, I believe, is to install that VLC program I talked about. So it might be that all he really needs to do is go to video. This is a free program. Everybody should have it. It plays files nothing else can play. So go to videolan, LAN.org, download the free VLC player, install it, and it might be all you needed to do. At that point, Windows Movie Maker might actually be able to open that VRO file, or you may be able to name that VRO file, rename the .VRO to .mp2, and that may be sufficient. So it may just merely be a lack of a usable codec. And VLC will help. If not, there are tons of other programs that will do this. And this is where, see, it would be so handy to have this commenting system because, you know, I know there's 20 different programs, and people could go there and say, oh, well, Leo, you know, this is what they should use. And we'd have all this rich collection of valuable stuff. Soon. Kevin, Spokane, you're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Good day, sir. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be on your show.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I've come to the conclusion that the only way I can afford a smartphone or tablet is to buy a used one off of Craigslist or eBay. But a friend of mine brought up the issue of, well, you got to be careful because you could get something that has like a keylogger already on it.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I wouldn't even have thought of that.
Or some kind of data capture malware. And I thought that, well, I can fix that. I'll just wipe the thing, do a reformat before I do anything else.
Right.
But I just wanted to be sure. I hope I'm not being too paranoid. Do you know of any kind of malware like that can survive a reformat? Like a rootkit?
I don't, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody has created one. I mean, these guys are very sneaky. However, I think you're probably all right. Every smartphone out there comes with a data resets method of some kind. You know, it's often in the menus. Chances are anybody selling a phone on eBay or Craigslist has already done that. It would be a lot of work for a bad guy to set up this system where he buys smartphones, puts malware on them, and then resells them just to get you, it's a lot easier for him to, say, upload a fake app to the App Store. Those kinds of things are much more prevalent. So I really wouldn't worry too much about getting tricked by somebody selling. There are other ways you can get ripped off. On Craigslist and eBay, there's a little bit of trust involved buying on those systems because, somebody could sell you a non-functioning device, for instance. I'd be more worried about that. But I think if you wipe it, I don't think there's anything too much to worry about.
Okay, yeah, I understand the risk is small, but it is worth the risk, is what you're saying, that I can go ahead and do that, and there's no kind of something that lives in the BIOS.
Well, again, there's no guarantee, but that seems highly unlikely, yeah.
Okay, Great.
All right. You know, it's interesting, though. You're trying to save money by buying a cheaper handset because really the real issue on all smartphones is not the cost of the handset. In fact, almost every carrier now has free or inexpensive handsets. I note that they have dropped the price now of the Windows Phone Lumia 900 on AT&T to $49. You can get a cheap smartphone because the true cost of the smartphone is not the handset cost. Get it. You know, there's plenty of free smartphones, zero cost. Why? Because you're going to be spending $100 a month on data. That's the real cost, is the monthly fee. And when you start to add it up, $30 for a data connection, another $15 for phone minutes, another $5 for SMS, another $5 for roaming, another $10 here, $10. It's usually between $80 and $100 a month. So forget. I mean, yeah, okay, great. You've saved $100 on the phone. They'll get it back. So what I probably would do is go look, go to the phone company that you want to use, Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, T-Mobile. Look what phones they've got for free. In almost every case, there will be at least an Android phone for free. And then you know you're getting something brand new, something in good shape, something with no spyware on it. Merle in Michigan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Merle.
Hey, Leo.
How are you?
It's a pleasure to talk to you again. It's been a while. I listen weekly.
Well, thank you.
I was calling to find out. I'm an older guy, almost 50, closing in on 50 rapidly. But I enjoy my
That feels
computer.
young to me, by the way, but go ahead. Keep going on.
Yeah, and I realized that. That's why I figured I'd say it.
Thanks for making me feel even older. No, you know, it's funny. I'm not sensitive about my age, and I think one of the reasons is because in this business, one of the things I love about technology is it's age independent. We don't people. It's merit based. It's intelligence based. It's not based on sex, age, race, creed. It's completely based on what do you know.
But that's right. That's right.
I
I learned about you. Thank God for XM Satellite Radio. That's how I first learned about you.
Channel 166. You got it.
That's right.
Yeah.
It used to be something else, but they changed the channels.
Yeah. Yep.
But I wanted to ask you, I'm having problems updating my podcast. I pay for some stuff, other stuff I just get for free. And about 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, they stopped automatically updating, and they won't. I can't even.
What program do you use to get podcasts?
IE9.
And are you not using iTunes? You're just downloading them in IE9?
Well, you know, I have iTunes also, but that was a lot easier because iTunes tends to screw with my phone because I have DSL.
Yeah. So you're getting podcasts. Well, hold on a second because I'm going to try to understand this and see if I can help you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Stay tuned.
You call it borrow, so I want my heart back. If you're not gonna keep it, if you got no uses, I'm gonna
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. We're talking to Merle in Michigan. He listens to podcasts. Thumbs up. 2 thumbs up, Merle, as a podcaster. I appreciate that. What podcasts are, just so you know, is really they're just audio that you download from the internet. But what makes it a podcast is that there is what we call an RSS feed. There's a file, a text file, that's associated with that podcast that's updated when there's a new version of the podcast. And your software, Internet Explorer 9, iTunes, the Zune Market, whatever it is that you use to listen to podcasts, is supposed to periodically check that RSS file and see if there's a new podcast. And if there is, it should automatically download it. And that's what makes it a podcast because you just always have the latest versions on your system.
Now, it does that. What happened, what I tried to do when I ran into that snag initially, I deleted the podcast, the feed.
Right.
And
you resubscribed.
I resubscribed, right?
Yeah.
And it updated.
Okay.
But then it'll do that for maybe a day or two, and then it stops again.
Well, that's annoying. Now,
very much so.
When you say you're using IE9, are you using the RSS reader in IE9 to subscribe? Is that how you're doing it?
I am using the link that they give me on the web page when I log in.
Okay. And you click that
They
link.
always have a link there.
There, Internet Explorer does have an RSS reader built in, so it will subscribe to a feed. Okay. And so when you listen to the podcast, it's just showing up in a folder that you get.
That's correct.
Yeah. So you just the new one is always in that folder. So Microsoft,
Firefox does that. Internet Explorer doesn't do that.
What is it?
Internet Explorer just allows.
What is it?
I just go subscribe to this feed link, and then it jumps right there, and it's always updated right away.
Oh, so you have like a bookmark that shows the latest ones.
Correct. Yes.
And they're pre-downloaded. You don't have to re-download.
That's correct.
Okay. So Microsoft says that I found a tech note, actually the chat room preloaded a tech note for this from the Microsoft support site. It's just for your own reference. It's article number 926447. But what it says, and it's pretty simple, RSS feeds may not be updated in Internet Explorer. And what it says is 3 reasons. Connectivity issues with the feed server. We're going to presume that that's not happening. The update frequency for the feed is too long, and you can change that in the settings for the RSS feed. It's kind of like...
I do daily.
Okay, so you know where that is, and that's not it.
Right.
Then he says there's an issue, the last one is with a local feed cache. You might try clearing your cache. Because what
cache is where I have everything stored at under the feed.
Yeah, if it's actually in the Internet Explorer settings, you can clear history and cache. And
I've done that.
And that doesn't fix it.
I did that initially.
And that doesn't fix it.
That didn't fix it either, no. And I'm having the same problem every day. And some stuff is not available in iTunes. That's the problem I have.
Yeah.
Everything is not available in iTunes.
Well, if you have a URL, which you're using in IE9, it's a file that ends in .xml, you can paste that into iTunes. You don't have to go through the iTunes directory to find it.
Okay.
You could also try Firefox, see if that works better. Is Firefox having the same problem?
When I try to do that, I'm not clear on that because I prefer Firefox. It's much more stable than Internet Explorer. It works faster and everything. But I don't. When I do the RSS feeds, I cannot ever go back in a second time to find out where they went.
Yeah, I think most people assume if you're listening to podcasts, you're using iTunes. Like 90% of our podcasts are iTunes. There is a program, and this was the original podcast program called Juice. That is a Windows program. It's free. It's at juicereceiver.sourceforge.net. Actually, there's a Mac and Linux version, too. It's just designed to do this. And I would bet it'll do a better job.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, just Google Juice Receiver. If you don't want to use iTunes, this is a little bit smaller, lighter weight, faster. A good way to listen to podcasts. Merle, I'm sorry. You said and? Was there anything else?
No, I'm good.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Merle. Good to talk to you. Hey. Ruth in Yucaipa, California. Hi, Ruth. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, how are you, Leo? Love your show.
Thank you for listening.
I am canceling my cable, and I have digital converter boxes because all my TVs are analog.
Yeah.
And I was doing some reading, and there was a thing there said, making sure you get the right antenna. And I'm going, what right antenna?
Well, you don't need an antenna for cable, so forget that. I don't know why they even mention that.
No, I'm canceling the cable.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You don't want cable. You want to go back to the old way with the rabbit ears. Okay, so here's why they talk about the right antenna, and you can go to a website called Antenna Web.
I'm actually on it.
That's what I thought, antennaweb.org, because that's where they tell you what kind of antenna. And the reason is the new digital channels use they're basically like the UHF antennas. So you want to have the right antenna. You can buy them. They're not expensive. You might even be able to use the old ones, frankly. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. We had a great call from, where was it? Yucaipa, right? A cord cutter, and I love that. Cord cutter means you're cutting off the cable. That's enough. No more satellite or cable bills. I am going to get my television either from the internet or over the air, the old-fashioned way. If you live near a city, of course, that's the best free high-def content you can get is these locals channels. But you kind of do need a better antenna in some cases. Now, if you're in Yucaipa, you're probably close enough to the big channels and the big antennas that you can probably just use whatever you've got. But you can, if you need a better antenna, She went to antennaweb.org, which is a great site. It's all about antennas for HD TVs and has a lot of recommendations. But the truth is, there are inexpensive, $50 antennas that are dedicated to this precise purpose. You don't need to go out and get a very fancy one. I will put a link in the show notes to a very humorous, enjoyable YouTube video on how to make a very high quality high-def antenna with coat hangers. But you wouldn't really want to have this in your house. I could tell. It's kind of funny looking. But if you're a home, do-it-yourselfer and you want to save some money, you can, in fact. But there are lots of in it. Walmart has a $15 HD TV flat antenna from RCA. And if you try your existing, what I would say is try the rabbit ears or your UHF antenna is more likely to work better, frankly, than your VHF antenna because the new digital channels are actually in the UHF spectrum. But if they don't work perfectly, if you aren't getting great pictures, and you should, then you might want to get something a little bit better. And you could either build it or go to Walmart or anywhere and just get an inexpensive antenna. Shouldn't be too tough. It's only difficult for people who are in the cliff regions, that is, the areas where analog TV kind of worked, but it wasn't perfect, and now they've gone to digital, you can't get a signal at all, because that's how digital is. It either works or it doesn't, and analog degraded. So you could, we all remember, if you're of a certain age, old enough, pre-cable, you remember the ghosting and the flickering and the rolling bars and all that when you have a weak analog signal. Well, those people are probably not getting anything in digital now because it just doesn't work at all. If you're in that kind of an area, then a good antenna, a better antenna might make a big difference. And how much energy and time and money you spend on that really will depend on how much you need to pull in a weak signal. For most people, cord cutting is a great idea. You not only save the $100+ a month that you spend on a cable bill, but HD TV over the air is the best quality. It's much less compressed than cable or satellite HD. It really looks good. So you get your live events, you get your Super Bowl and your Academy Awards, your local news, the live stuff that way, and then everything else you get over the internet, from Netflix, Hulu Plus, iTunes, YouTube, whatever. You can get, there's very little you can't actually get without cable. Don't tell the cable guys that. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. Fred is in New Jersey, our next caller. Hi, Fred. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. Great to talk to you. I'm not a long-time listener. I've been listening about a month.
Well, I hope we'll hook you. I hope we'll hook you in here.
I think you've done it.
Good.
But
Good.
I find your in-depth knowledge really fascinating. And you're a Mac person, correct?
Well, because of my job, I use it all. But if I didn't have to use Windows and Linux for work, I probably would. My personal computers are all Macs. Yes.
Okay. Well, I've always had a Windows computer. My first computer actually was a AT&T PC 6300. Going way back.
Right.
With a 20 megabyte hard drive. But now, my wife my last birthday, she got me an iPhone, and I love the iPhone. And that's how I found you.
It's the entry level. It's the entry gateway drug to the Apple world.
Well, my brother has been trying to convert me for years. He's a staunch, Apple person. But now my birthday's coming up this week, and my wife has asked me what I want, and I'm thinking, an iPad or a MacBook Air. Am I making a leap that I don't need to make? I use the computer mostly for photos and web surfing. And
well, it's your wife's money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go for it. Look, the best laptop on the market, Windows or Mac, is absolutely the MacBook Air. It's also one of the most expensive because one of the reasons Apples are more expensive is, unlike the Windows side, they have an unbundled support. On the On the Windows side, you can get a $600 Air equivalent. In fact, this Dell XPS 13 Ultrabook that I've been playing with is exactly like a MacBook Air. Thin, light, solid-state drive, beautiful screen, and a lot less money because there's no support. If you want decent support, you're going to pay for it. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing. There's lots of us who don't need support. I haven't made a call to a support number in years. So unbundling support makes sense. But in the Apple side, you get excellent support. You can bring a Macintosh to the Apple Store, and they will bend over backwards to keep you happy. And that's what you're that's primarily what you're paying for. I think the MacBook Air is gorgeous. I think an iPad is a good choice. Now, here's the difference. Okay. The iPad has basically no keyboard. It has an on-screen glass keyboard. Now, you're already using one on the iPhone. You actually, because you use an iPhone, you have a pretty good idea of what an iPad would be like.
Right. Well, I've been in classes. I have my own business, and I go to updating classes and stuff. And guys have iPads with a little separate keypad that they.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, in my opinion, get a MacBook Air.
Okay, so that would be your recommendation.
If you really think that, now, if you don't do a lot of typing, I think, I love the new iPad. I think it's amazing. But it's really designed for people who want to touch, stuff and aren't doing a lot of data entry. If you're going to be using spreadsheets, do you use spreadsheets in your business?
Well, my wife does all the administrative end, and she has a Windows-based computer. She's got QuickBooks and et cetera on there. So I don't think she would convert over to the Mac. It would be mostly for my use, for my more or less pleasure use. I use Google Picasso right now on the Windows computer.
Oh, man, iPhoto, and I promised to talk about this, and I haven't talked about it yet. iPhoto on the Mac, or frankly, iPhoto on the iPad, is better than Picasso. It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all touch.
I looked at it on the internet, and it looked like it was better for a Mac-based computer, and that's what got me thinking, because I love to take pictures, and I love to manipulate them and store them, and if I can use that, what's it called, their photo solution?
iPhoto, yeah. And by the way, if you buy iPhoto on the iPad, it also comes on the iPhone, and you can start using it on the iPhone as well.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, because I think I'll ask her to go for the MacBook Air.
I think you will be very happy. It's more like a laptop. It is a laptop. What am I saying? It's very thin and light, though, which means it's very easy to carry around. It's certainly more capable than an iPad. I like them both. They're very different applications. I guess that's, what I would say. We'll talk a little bit more about the iPad. The GizWiz coming up, too, with the Gadget recommendations. Stay tuned.
With Mama.
It's the Kentucky Derby, isn't it?
To help
we take you now to Churchill Downs.
You'll soon be growing up strong.
Love that. Dan Fogelberg.
All the long lazy morning.
Now, for many years, as an adult contemporary disc jockey, I heard far too much of that. I don't want to hear it ever again. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Did I call you on the right number this time, Dick?
You did, sir.
Dick DiBartolo, Mad Magazine's maddest writer, and we call him the GizWiz because he brings us
because that's my name.
Crazy gizmos and gadgets every week. And he does a podcast that's, oddly enough, called the Weekly Daily GizWiz.
Wow.
Hey, Dick, I want to thank you. I wasn't here last week, and I forgot to tell you I wasn't going to be here, so you showed up for the show and just talked for several hours. So
then I said, is Leo very late? Because I've been on for an hour and 15 minutes. And they said, well, no.
No, he's in Norway.
He's in Norway.
Have you ever been to Norway?
The Mead and Salmon Parade.
The Mead and Salmon Parade. You hit the nail on the head. The specialty of the area that I was in is a codfish that is sun-dried on rock on the cliffs. They call it clipfisk or clifffish. Cliffish. It's easier to say clipfisk, oddly enough.
Yeah.
And then they make a lovely soup out of it called bacalao.
Wow. Was it good?
No, it's horrible. But it's the national dish. So what am I going to say? No, actually, it was quite good.
You just saved me $1,000 and a half.
You know what I like? The fjords.
Oh, you have one, don't you? The Mustang?
I have a Fjord Mustang, and I love it. Dick, do you have a gadget for us today?
I do, and I was in Vegas at the Boobies and Leg Parade.
Very famous, big event. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I was out there for the hardware show, and I found lots of fun gadgets. But one that people were really talking about is called, well, first of all, the booth attracted me immediately when in big letters it says slob-proof. And anything that's slog-proof, count me in.
Yes.
So it is called the slob-proof paint pen. So, Leo, this is a great thing. So you paint the wall and you have a unique color that you had made up. And then normally there's a little bit in the bottom of the can and you put it in the closet. And then 6 months later, someone scratches the wall and you open the can and it's dried up and useless. So what the paint pen kit is it's they're like empty magic markers. And the kit comes with a syringe. So when you're done painting,
I see trouble afoot here. You've got two empty magic markers and a syringe. What could we do with that?
Okay, so you get you suck some paint out of the can, and you fill this magic marker shaped device. Has nothing to do with magic marker.
Yeah.
And then you put the cap on and close it up. Now the woman there, her name is Debbie, said the paint will stay fresh for about a year. If you have a scratch or something on the wall, you take out this marker pen, you just turn the barrel, which feeds the paint onto the felt tip, and you paint out the scratches.
Oh, that's actually kind of a good idea.
It's a great idea.
Because I keep, and everybody I'm sure does this when you do a paint job, you keep the old cans around, so if you need to do a touch-up, and my garage is filled with like hundreds of old paint cans. That's a hazard. This would be much better.
Not only that, Leo, it's always a gallon can with a quarter-inch of paint in it. Yeah.
And I only need a little bit, just enough to fit in this pen probably be sufficient.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's on Amazon. It says shipping next week because they introduced it at the hardware show. $20, you get 2 pens and the syringe.
What, the syringe is for what?
You know what, Leo? It makes it easy to fill the pen from a big paint can.
You draw up the paint from the can, and then you inject
you don't
it
want
into
to
the pen.
try putting a gallon can into a little tube.
That makes a
so
lot
that's
of
what the little syringe is for. It is not for recreational purposes whatsoever.
Now,
it's for painting.
I'm liking this slob-proof website because it looks like they do slob-proof furniture.
Yes, it's started by women who wanted solutions to
their
problems with kids messing up things. It's like
we always, it's funny because we never really did decorated the house, and Jennifer and I always said we're going to wait till the kids stop peeing on the furniture before we actually buy good furniture.
Oh well, Henry. That's going to be another 2 years.
I know, he's only 17.
Yeah, I know. 21 is pretty much when they
at this point, it's not peeing on the furniture; it's spilling beer on the furniture. So it didn't really change much.
It's pretty much the same.
Pretty much the
just
same
hasn't
thing.
Gone
it's
through
unprocessed. Yeah. So slob-proof furniture, interesting, and they sell the pen there. The furniture's not cheap. This must be nice furniture, or just expensive bad furniture.
I only saw the pen.
You only saw the pen. All right. I wonder what makes this furniture slob-proof.
God, I don't know. I don't know.
I should find out.
Yeah.
Daily Gizwiz, or the weekly Daily Gizwiz, shows up on this channel every Saturday right after the radio show. Stay tuned if you're listening at TWiT.tv.
What the heck is it has started?
Oh, good, because I'm dying to know what that plastic knuckle duster was really was. GIZWIZ.biz is Dick's website. And he plays this game, the What the Heck Is It game, where you got a close-up picture of a gadget of some kind. Identify it correctly, you have a chance to win one of 12 Mad magazines. Identify it incorrectly, you have a chance to win one of 24 Mad magazines, each autographed.
That's the new one, so if you just scroll down. Now,
this is the new one. I don't know what it is. It looks like, but just before this looks like, I know what it is. That's a two-toed sloth speaker. I don't know what that is. What is that? Go to the website.
I'll tell you. Wait a minute.
Yeah, tell me. What is that? So I can play, because I want to win Mad Magazine. Nobody's listening. Just whisper in my. So, and this is called the thing that it looked like a blue plastic brass knuckles. But what it really was a handle for the iPad, the Padlet. I get it.
Yes, you stretch it over the two corners of the iPad, and then you can hold it.
That's just what the iPad needs.
Yes, exactly.
It looks
but
like
three people knew.
It's like a brassiere for an iPad, is what it is. Basically.
Oh, the eyebrow.
Dick T. Bartolo, thank you, sir. Hang on there. We're going to get to you in a minute with the weekly Daily Gizwiz. Meanwhile, I'm going to continue doing a radio show if the FCC does not ban it imminently. Mark's coming up in Little Rock. He's got problems with his tablet. Joanne in Ventura, California. Oh, wait a minute. What happened to our... Here it is. I'm sorry, Joanne. I'll get to you in a second. It's Mark from Little Rock.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
Hey, Mark. I got a minute, so let's see if we can do this.
I have a Kobe Kuros Android tablet, MID 7120.
Yeah.
And I'm having some issues with it. Either that or it's having issues with me.
How much did you pay for that tablet, just out of curiosity?
Actually, I bought it secondhand from a friend of mine.
For $2, because new, it's like $90.
I paid about half that.
Okay, good.
So, and what the issues are that I'm having is that some of the programs on here, and I've freed up a whole bunch of memory. I've done the virus scan on it. But I'll get an error on programs, whether I'm using the Wi-Fi or not. It'll tell me that it's caused a fatal error, and it's going to shut down.
Oh, no.
So I'll shut down the program.
You know, unfortunately, we're out of time. I just don't know what that could be. I would try resetting the memory on that, see if that helps. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.